If you've watched even just a few perspective teaching videos, you'll have seen something such as this. There'll be a box with a line through it, and the angles of the sides of the box will go to a point called and depending which video you're watching, this line will be called either the horizon or the eye level. So which is it? Why they're two terms? Why this inconsistency? Is one more correct than the other? Is one a better, more helpful term than the other? The first thing to realize is that both words have a meaning in English that has nothing to do with perspective theory. Eye level is quite literally the level of my eyes. So this painting is at my eye level. In general terms, the word horizon has the meaning of the line where the land or where the sea meets the sky. And if we're looking over the sea, or if the ground is very flat and empty, then this line certainly can be a straight line. So here we see the horizon between the Pacific Ocean and the sky. Did you catch the spouts of the two whales we caught migrating down alongside the New South Wales coastline a few years ago? But in perspective theory, eye level and horizon are terms used interchangeably for this line, the line where all of these perspective angle lines meet. So in perspective theory, horizon and eye level are used interchangeably. They're used with exactly the same meaning. And in general English language usage, they have other meanings that have nothing to do specifically with perspective theory. So does it matter which term we use, eye level or horizon? I think it does, because one of them actually means the same thing in perspective theory as it means in general usage. And not only that, but the very words itself explains what it is in an accurate way, which I think is very helpful. At least it certainly has been for me. But the other term can mean something quite different in general usage to what it means in perspective theory. And that can be not only confusing, but actually misleading. In that confusion, we can locate this perspective theory line in the wrong place because of this confusion. So what's the helpful term, and why is the other one so misleading? If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know I use the term eye level. So obviously that's the one I think is more helpful. And here's why. If we think back to our perspective theory diagram, the horizon or eye level line is the line where these perspective angle lines meet. Which means that if there are any lines at this line level, it's going to be a straight line. So the most reliable way I know to find eye level is to find the straight line. In some buildings, there's actually a line that we can work out. In others, we can work it out from where the straight line would be, judging from the angles of the lines that we can see above and below it. This horizon or eye level line is also the point where the angle of the perspective lines changes from going one direction to the other direction. So in this scene, we can see that we have perspective angles like this, like this. The tops of these arches give us one. The bottom of these windows give us one. If we come down here to this stonework, we can see that the line actually goes up the other way. So somewhere between here, this line that's going down, and here, this line that's going up, we're going to have our straight line, and it's going to be about here. You'll notice it's not at the eye level of the person in the photo, because I was standing at a lower level than they were at when I took this photo, and the eye level is the eye level of the viewer or the camera, not necessarily the people in the scene. And while the eye level or horizon line is often towards the lower part of a scene, not necessarily. In this scene, you can see that there are a lot more perspective angles sloping up from the lower half of our scene than the upper half of our scene. But again, if we look at the angles, So here we have a line that's very slightly sloping up. Here we have a line that's slightly sloping down. Eye level is going to be somewhere in between. It's going to be about here. And because this line, this horizon or eye level line, is the line that is the eye level of the viewer, I like to think of it as the eye level is the eye level. That works for me. But still, why is there a problem with using the word horizon to describe this line? After all, it does look like the horizon line that we would see in a scene. Using horizon seems straightforward when we look at our perspective theory diagrams, and then we look at landscapes where we have a nice straight line on the horizon. But it's not so obvious to work out where this line is when we have a scene like this and we cannot see any horizon and we don't actually know where it is. We clearly can't use the people because we have two different rows of people in straight lines with their eyes all at different levels. And in another scene, even without any buildings, there may be no nice straight line on the horizon. The horizon might be marked by a mountain range with a very uneven line. I think the heart of the problem can be seen easily if we go back to that photo we just looked at. This photo is taken in Montmartre in Paris. I don't know French. I do know that Mont is the word for mountain, and I'm somewhere near the top of Montmartre, at the top of a steep flight of stairs, looking through a small canyon of buildings that cascade down the side of the mountain. So for what we see in this scene, I'm in a very high elevator position and the ground slopes away dramatically right in front of me, which is why eye level is up here high in the picture frame, because this is actually level with my eyes when I'm standing here looking at this scene. So by using the idea that eye level is actually the level of our eyes when we're looking at the scene, we can see that this is the eye level in perspective terms of this scene. But if we look a bit more carefully into the distance, we can see the horizon, which is there. So if we use the term eye level for this line, then in this scene, eye level is here, and the horizon of the scene is here. But if we're using the term horizon for this line, then we have the confusing situation that the perspective horizon is here and the actual horizon is here. And the misleading confusion can be, if I've only ever used the word horizon for this line, then when I see this scene, I think, oh, the horizon in the perspective sense is here. And in fact, it's not. The horizon line, the way we generally use the word in English, here, is not necessarily in the same place as the perspective horizon line, which in this case is about here. So when we use the term eye level in perspective, it accurately describes what we're looking at, or at least what we're looking for, which is the eye level of the person viewing this scene or of the camera recording this scene. But when we use the term horizon, the horizon in general usage is not necessarily the horizon line that we have in perspective theory. In many scenes, these can be two different lines in different places. And this is the problem. This is the confusion. And in my experience, when people have first been learning perspective theory, if they've come across the use of horizon line rather than eye level, it's been easy to think, oh, I know what that is. That's the horizon. That's the line where the land or the sea meets the sky. And in those little simplistic box perspective theory diagrams, such as the one I used at the very start of this video, have a straight line as the perspective horizon line, which looks like the more general usage horizon line. It's certainly very easy not to understand that there might be a big difference between where those two lines are in some situations. It's not obvious and usually not mentioned that the perspective horizon line and the more general horizon line are only going to be in the same place if the viewer is standing on ground level, and that the ground from under where the viewer is standing right to as far as we can see is flat and level. And of course, that is not always the case. Let me show you a simple diagram that I think makes very clear why the perspective theory horizon line and the more general term horizon line can be two very different lines. And this will explain what was happening in our earlier Montmartre photo where the eye level line was above the line where the land met the sky. I'll draw a line that represents sea level, and I'm going to put a mountain on one side and maybe a smaller mountain a long way away. Now on this mountain we have a series of buildings coming down the side, much as we do in Montmartre. And standing level with the upper levels of this building, we have our observer. So their eye level is the line that's level with where their eyes are. And we can see that if they were to draw the scene in front of them, it would be very much like our Montmartre scene, where there'd be the tops of buildings quite close to the top of the scene, and then there'd be more building going down below eye level. And if a bit of horizon, using the term generally, was going to peek through between some of the buildings, it would be at a lower level than the viewer's eye level, and therefore a lower level than the perspective eye level. So this is what we see happening here. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. If you've wondered what the difference is between these two terms, I hope you found this video helpful. I was a bit confused by it all until I worked out what was happening. And there can be enough to understand when it comes to perspective without confusing and at times conflicting terms being used. Of course, it doesn't really matter which term we use, as long as we understand what it means in perspective theory. But I find very helpful the fact that the term eye level actually directs our thinking to understand what it is and what we're looking for when we're working out this vital piece of information that determines the perspective of a given scene. People don't always find perspective fun, but I hope you have fun when you're drawing. I'll see you next time. Bye.